Hi everybody, Mr. Hurley here. Today in this video, I want to talk about and learn about artifacts. Okay? We are going to investigate what artifacts are and what we can learn from artifacts. First, we have to know, what are these artifacts? What are artifacts? What's the definition of the vocabulary word? Well, here's the definition. An artifact is something made and used by people. Usually an artifact is old and historic, okay? Or an artifact might have cultural significance, meaning it can teach us about a culture, okay? Now, artifacts can be 100 years old. Artifacts can be 500 years old, okay? Artifacts can be 1,000 years old. Artifacts can even be 2,000 years old. Or, if you want to go way back, artifacts can be 10,000 years old, and we could learn about the people who made these. We could learn about our ancestors, and that's what I want to do today, okay? So what I want to do, and at the end of this lesson, you will have an activity where you are going to explore an artifact, and you're going to write about an artifact, and you're going to learn about the people who made your artifact. Okay? But first I want to present some of these artifacts to you. And I want to show you what you can learn about the people who made these artifacts. Okay? So we'll start off with this bottle. This looks like a bottle, right? Okay? It says something on the bottle. Okay? It says, a bottle of milk is a bottle of health. Interesting. Well, let me tell you, this milk bottle is 100 years old. Okay? So if you were a kid, if you were a student 100 years ago at a school, you would not get your milk in a carton. You would be getting your milk in a glass bottle just like this. So that's interesting. We could learn about student lunches from long ago by studying these artifacts. Okay? So this is a 100-year artifact, and we could learn that, people didn't have carton. People didn't have carton milks. People didn't have plastic. Everything had to come in glass 100 years ago. So if you were a kid at a school in Linwood 100 years ago, okay, you went to the cafeteria, this is what your milk would come in. And remember, a bottle of milk is a bottle of health. Always drink your milk. Okay? Interesting. All right, let's take a look at this artifact. This looks like a nail, like a large nail. It's bent. It's kind of rusted. What could we learn from it though? Okay? Well, I'm looking at it, and it looks like somebody pounded it out with a hammer. Yeah, this was made by hand, okay? Back 100 years ago, or I'm sorry, 500 years ago. This nail is 500 years old, approximately. Back 500 years ago, they didn't have machines to make nails. They didn't have machines to make things. They had to do it by hand, okay? So this nail was made by a blacksmith. Each nail had to be made by hand. Imagine that. Okay, so this nail was pounded out by a blacksmith who would work in his shop making nails, making helmets, making chains, who knows what else he made, okay? But it looks like they made these nails very strong. This nail survived 500 years and it's still here. So we could learn that people made metal things from hand, not from machine, from hand. And they made them very strong to last a long time. The nails today might last a few years, might last 20 years, maybe last 30 years, okay? But the nails they made 500 years ago, they're still here. If I bent this back, I could use it again, okay? This nail is from Spain, okay? From a castle. Very interesting, okay? All right, let's take a look at some other of these artifacts, and let's see what we could learn about the people who made them. That's the key. That's the fun part about exploring artifacts, is learning about the people who made them, learning about how they lived, okay? This is one of my favorite artifacts. This is a Native American pot, okay? And this is over 1,000 years old. This is over 1,000 years old. This was made approximately in the year 900 AD, okay? So that's about 1,100 years ago. And it's still in one piece. It is not broken. It is still in one piece. So what can we learn about the Native Americans who made this? What can we learn about those people who made this pot? Well, we could learn that they were great ceramic workers. They were excellent with ceramics, making pots, very strong pots, because this thing was buried in the desert sand for hundreds of years until somebody found it. I didn't find it, but somebody found this recently, and it's still in one piece. That is amazing that this has survived for over 1,000 years and it's in one piece, okay? This pot was made by an Indian Native American tribe that lived in New Mexico, Arizona area in the desert. Wow, how did they survive in the desert? Well, we could learn about that, okay? They stored food in their pots, they stored water in their pots that they made, and they had to use irrigation, okay? That means that they had to grow food like any other culture has to grow food, and they used irrigation to do it. That means that they used rivers and streams and diverted those to bring that water into the desert so that they could survive in the desert. Okay, these Native Americans were known as the masters of the desert because they could survive there. Okay, and they had pots like this to help them survive. So this is a great artifact. Okay, now this is 1,000 years old. How about this artifact? See a face on there? Okay, this artifact is about 2,000 years old. All right, amazing. This is a coin from the Roman Empire. Okay, we could learn about the Romans from the money that they used. Okay, take a look at the picture of the person there. Kind of see his face. You can see his, you can see his head there. That was a Roman emperor. His name was Antonio Pio in Latin. In English, it translates to something like Antonio the Pious. He was known as one of the good emperors. Okay? So we can learn a lot about the Romans just from their money. Okay? We can learn about what kind of money they used. We can learn about what did they put on their money. Now, we put pictures of our presidents on our money. The Romans did the same thing. They put pictures of their emperors on their money. So if I wanted to, I could go back and I could learn about Antonio Pio, what kind of emperor he was, and what Rome was like, what the civilization was like back when he was alive. Okay? So just from coinage like this, we could learn a lot about the people. Okay? That's why people like to collect coins. They could learn a lot about the people who made them. Let me show you the backside of it. Okay, so you see like a woman standing there. Interesting. So we got Antonio Pio. Antonio the Pious. Okay, let's move on a little bit. I got this, looks like a ball right here. What is this thing? Let's take a look at it. Wow. It's a rock, but it's smooth and round. This definitely looks like somebody made this, but why would you spend all the time to form a rock into a ball? Why would somebody do that? We have to think about that. It's heavy, it's round, and it's smooth. Okay? Well, I'm not quite sure what this was used for. This was used maybe 5,000 years ago by people who lived in Mexico. Okay? Somebody gave this to me who lived in Mexico. But I'm thinking this was used for grinding. For grinding. Imagine you have some corn, okay, and you want to make some tortillas, or you want to make some tamales. You got corn, okay, but you have to grind the corn down. You have to make it into like a paste, like a meal. Okay, so I take my corn and use my grinding stone, and I would get in there and grind it until it turned into like a nice paste or a meal, like a cornmeal, okay? Then I could, make my tortillas. I could start to make my tamales, okay? So this is a tool. This is a very important tool that people used many hundreds, maybe thousands of years ago. I'm not quite sure, okay? So an important tool here. Now what they would have, they'd have a rock underneath it. So you'd have a rock, a nice smooth flat rock underneath it, or maybe a rock that has a little groove, and you put the corn inside there, or maybe chilies, okay? You put the chilies inside there, grind them all up, and now you got some nice chili paste, okay, to use for your dinner or your recipe. Or you could grind that corn down, okay, and then you can make your tortillas. Interesting tool from Mexico. Okay, so we can learn how these people would grind their food, okay, and prepare their food by studying their tools. Okay, let's keep going. I like this one, it's pretty cool. A student of mine gave that to me a long time ago. Okay, all right, take a look at this. You probably know what that is. Arrowhead, okay? Now this arrowhead is kind of big. What can we learn from it? What can we learn about the people who made this arrowhead? Well, if we look at it, okay, we could say, hey, it's big. All right, so what were they hunting? Well, if the arrowhead is big, the animals that they're hunting must have been big. Yeah, so we have a large arrowhead used to hunt large animals. Okay, so we could learn that from the arrowhead. This arrowhead was made by the Woodlands Indian tribe that lived in the United States. And they lived in like Georgia, that part of the southern part of the United States. And they were around 10,000 years ago. So these are the kind of tools, these are the kind of arrowheads that kept these people alive. Without the arrowheads, they can't hunt. And without hunting for meat that has lots of protein, you can't survive. So very important to the culture, the Woodland Indians culture, okay, was hunting and making arrowheads. Now this is pretty nice arrowhead here. I couldn't make this. I couldn't make this if you gave me 2 weeks to make it, two years to make it. So they were skilled. They lived long ago, but they had lots of skills, some skills that we don't have today. Very interesting. Arrowhead. We have another one here, but this is not an arrowhead. Kind of looks like an arrowhead, but it's not. Take a look at it. All right. Okay. So let's say you're able to hunt and you get a deer. Okay. Now, back then, you didn't waste any part of that deer. You used everything. Today, we waste a lot, okay? I'll be honest with you. Back then, They had to survive. So they didn't waste anything. So I would use this. It looks small. It is kind of small. But this was a knife. Okay? This was basically what they used as a knife. And I could skin the entire animal. I could skin the entire animal using this small, what we'll call a scraper. Kind of like a scraper. Okay? So this is for hunting. This is for cleaning the animal before you eat it. Okay? And then you would use the fur for clothing. You would use the entire animal. You wouldn't, the Native Americans, they would never waste any part of the animal. Okay? We could definitely learn from them. Interesting. Okay. So that's a couple artifacts that I've shown you. I'm going to give you an assignment. It's going to be fun though. I think you're going to like this, okay? I'm going to have you research your own artifact. Now, you might have an artifact at your house. Maybe your grandma, your grandpa, your mama, your dad gave you an artifact, okay? Or maybe you have one at your house that's old. You could write about it, because we're going to write and we're going to research an artifact, okay? So, your job is to research an artifact. You might ask, how do I do that, Mr. Hurley? I don't have any artifacts, okay? That's okay. That's okay, because you could find an artifact online. Go ahead and find a picture of an artifact, okay? Just Google artifact pictures and scroll through a bunch of pictures. Find one that's interesting to you. Find an artifact that's interesting to you, and you could write about that artifact. Could be any artifact. Could be an artifact that's, maybe 100 years old, like our milk bottle. An artifact that's, 1,000 years old, like our pot here. Or it could be an artifact that's possibly 10,000 years old. Very old, okay? So, pick your artifact. Okay? Go online. If you don't have an artifact you're going to use from your house, that's fine. Pick an artifact that you find online. Okay? All right. After you pick your artifact, what are you going to do with it? Well, you're going to research it, okay? Google it. Read about your artifact. After you read about it, learn about the artifact, okay? Learn as much as you can about the artifact. Read about it, okay? What was it used for? Who made it? Where was it made? Why was it made? What was its purpose, okay? And these are the things you're going to have when you do your little bit of writing, okay? You're going to need a topic sentence. You always start with a topic sentence, okay? So in your topic sentence, tell me what your artifact is. Tell me what it is. Is it an arrowhead? Is it, an old bottle from the Old West, which this one is, okay? Is it, an old camera like this one here? So basically, in your topic sentence, tell me what your artifact is, okay? Introduce your artifact to the reader. I'll be the reader, and we'll have some other people read it too, okay? Then you're going to ask yourself some questions, and you're going to answer them in your writing, okay? We're going to use the 5 W's, okay? The 5 W's, right? Who, what, why, when, and where. If you use those 5 W's, you could cover a lot of ground. You could cover a lot of information using those 5 W's, okay? So, after you do your topic sentence, tell us who made your artifact. Who made it, okay? Was it an Indian tribe that made it? Was it people who lived in Mexico hundreds or thousands of years ago? If you could find the name of the group of people, the name of the culture that made your artifact, that would be great, okay? You're also going to need to tell us what your artifact was used for. Okay, right? What was your artifact used for? Okay, was it used for hunting? Was it used for medicine? All right, was it used for currency or money? All right, so that's a basic thing that we have to have in our writing. What was it used for? Okay, here's another thing you're going to have in your writing. When was the artifact made? When was it made? Okay, was it made, 2,000 years ago? Or, this is not that long ago. Was your artifact made a mere 100 years ago? Just try to figure out when your artifact was made. Okay? All right. We have a couple more W's to do. Where? Where was your artifact made? Try to research that. Determine where it was made. Was it made in the United States? Okay? Was it made in Mexico? Was it made, in another continent? Could be from Africa. Could be from Asia. Where was it made? What part of the world was it made in? Talk about that a little bit. That's very interesting. Okay? And then the most important thing you're going to answer, it's another what question, but this is the most important thing you're going to answer in your writing. This is the most important thing, so pay close attention. Okay, this is why we study artifacts. So you're going to talk about this in the last part of your writing. We'll call this your closing. We'll call this the closing of your writing, okay? All right, so this is the most important thing, okay? What can your artifact tell you about the people who made it? Listen again. What can your artifact tell you about the people who made it? Okay, that's why we study artifacts. That's why archaeologists study artifacts. Anthropologists, we'll learn about those guys later. But they study artifacts. They study artifacts to learn about the people who made them. What does your artifact tell you about the people who made them? What can you learn about those people? What can you learn about that culture? Okay? What can you learn about those people? Okay, that's the most important question we're trying to answer here. We're trying to learn about the people. Okay, the thing is great. The artifact is great, It's wonderful. It's good to look at. It's fun to look at. But the most important thing is the people who made them, our ancestors, the people who lived before us. Okay? We can learn a lot from them. What does your artifact tell you about the people who made them? I want to see that in everybody's writing. That's very important. Okay, and then you could add this to your writing as well. One last thing, we need a why, right? Okay, so here's your why. You could add this. This doesn't have to be your closing. You could add this anywhere you want to it could be your closing, but we're going to have a why question. Why did you pick this artifact? Why did you pick that artifact? Was it given to you? Was it given to you by your grandma or grandfather? Okay, is it an important family artifact that's important to your family? Okay, is it something that's been in your family for years and years and years and years, passed down from generation to generation? Okay, something like that would be great to talk about. Or, you went online and something caught your eye. You saw an artifact that, wow, what is that? I want to learn about that artifact. What is that? I want to learn about the people who made that artifact that I'm looking at right now, that I found online. Okay, like a picture online. All right, so that's your job. Pick an artifact. Research your artifact. Then answer those 5 W questions. I hope you learned something about artifacts today. Okay, I love to study artifacts. I love to collect artifacts. It's a lot of fun. You could have fun with it too. Okay, hope you enjoyed this video, guys. I'll see you soon. I'm going to do another video later on fossils. I think you're going to like it. Okay, see you next time. Bye, guys.